There is a moment, after you lose everything, when silence stops being empty and starts being loud. It's not the kind of silence that calms you. It's the kind that presses against your chest, asking a question you don't know how to answer. This is not the beginning of a journey. This is the end of something else. He didn't walk into the wild with a plan to survive for weeks. He didn't come here chasing adventure, views, or redemption. He came because there was nowhere left that felt like home, because every road behind him led back to the same wreckage, the same closed doors, the same looks that said, "You don't belong here anymore." So he chose a direction where no one could follow. The forest greets him without ceremony, no warning signs, no dramatic entrance, just trees, shadow, and the quiet understanding that once you cross this line, the rules change. Out here, no one cares who you used to be. No one asks for your story. No one gives you a second chance. He stands still for a moment, listening. Wind through branches, distant water, the soft creak of trunks shifting under their own weight. The world moving without him. That's when he realizes something uncomfortable. This place doesn't feel hostile yet. It feels indifferent, and indifference is worse than hate. Hate means you matter. Indifference means you are optional. He adjusts the straps on his pack. It's lighter than it should be, not because he packed wrong, but because he didn't plan on staying comfortable. Comfort ties you to the world you came from. He came here to cut ties. Each step forward feels deliberate, like a statement he doesn't say out loud. With every footfall, something behind him fades. Responsibilities, expectations, the version of himself that tried and failed to hold everything together. The light changes as he moves deeper. The forest closes in, not aggressively but completely. The sky narrows to broken pieces between branches. The air feels heavier, cooler. It smells like wet earth and decay and life continuing without permission. This is where most people turn back, not because they can't go on, but because they suddenly understand what going on really means. He doesn't turn back. Above the tree line, unseen but present, a shadow passes, a wide, silent glide. An eagle circles high, untouched by the chaos below. It doesn't acknowledge him, it doesn't need to, it belongs here. He does not. And that difference matters. He follows no trail. Trails are for people who expect to return. He steps over fallen logs, through thick brush, letting scratches mark his skin. Pain is useful. Pain keeps you present. His mind tries to drag him back. Faces, arguments, moments that replay themselves no matter how far you walk. He pushes them down. Not because they're gone, but because if he lets them surface now, he won't keep moving. And stopping is dangerous. He reaches a clearing by late afternoon. Not open enough to feel safe, not closed enough to feel protected. It will have to do everything out here has to do. He drops his pack and exhales, slow and controlled. This is it. This is the point where the world behind him officially ends. No audience, no rescue, no reset button. Just a man who lost everything, standing alone, surrounded by a wilderness that doesn't care whether he survives or not. And for the first time since it all fell apart, that thought doesn't scare him. It feels honest. He doesn't sit down to rest. Rest is something you do when you believe tomorrow is guaranteed. Out here, tomorrow is something you have to earn. He scans the clearing, then the tree line, then the ground. Wind direction. Low spots where cold air will settle. High ground where exposure will punish him. He's looking for a place that gives him a few advantages in a world built to take them away. The first true mistake people make in the wild is thinking shelter is a project. It's not. It's a decision about how you want to suffer. He chooses a spot where the trees thicken and the slope breaks the wind. There's a shallow depression near a fallen trunk, half hidden, like the forest almost tried to make a room for someone who didn't belong. He drops his pack and opens it with a kind of hesitation, like touching his gear might remind him of what he used to be. Then he pulls out the essentials: blade, cord, fire starter, tin. Minimal, practical. Nothing that says camping. Everything that says survive. He gathers branches without snapping the living ones. Dead wood first, always. He works quietly, moving with control, not rushed but never slow. The quiet out here feels like a spotlight. Every sound travels, every careless crack feels like an announcement. As he builds, His mind tries again, soft at first, then sharper. A memory of a hallway, a door half open, someone's voice tired and done. His name said in a way that sounded like a verdict. He tightens a knot until it bites into his fingers. The body wants to keep working. The mind wants to bleed. He keeps working. The shelter takes shape low and narrow, angled to shed rain. It's not comfortable, but it's small enough to trap warmth. He layers boughs and leaves, then more leaves, then whatever dry material he can find. The ground is cold even in daylight. At night it will be worse. The earth will steal heat from him like a debt collector. Next comes the hardest choice, fire. Fire is life and danger at the same time. It's warmth and its visibility. It's comfort and its arrogance. He chooses a spot downwind, slightly lower than his shelter, where smoke might disperse into the trees instead of rising like a signal. He builds a ring of stones and scrapes a shallow pit, then collects tinder and splits thin slivers of wood with his blade. He strikes the fire starter. A spark flashes and dies. He strikes again. Another spark, another failure. The air is damp. His hands are stiff. The frustration creeps in, and frustration is how people start doing stupid things. He slows down, cups the tinder with his palms, protects it from wind like it's the last fragile thing on earth. This time it catches. A faint glow becomes a thin flame. A thin flame becomes a small, steady burn. He feeds it slowly, carefully, making it just big enough to matter. When it finally holds, he stares at it longer than necessary, not because he loves fire, but because it's proof. Proof that he can still create something when everything else has been taken. He boils water, watching the bubbles form like tiny promises. He drinks slowly, because even water can punish you if you take it wrong. Then he eats the smallest ration possible, not because he's disciplined, but because he knows the truth. Hunger is coming either way. The only question is when. The light begins to fall faster than he expects. The forest dims, colors drain. The edges of everything harden. He adds more wood, then stops. He doesn't want a bright flame. Bright flames attract attention, and attention is expensive out here. That's when he hears it, the first sound that doesn't belong to him. A rustle at the edge of the clearing, soft, slow. Not wind. Something moving with weight. He freezes. His eyes track the tree line. His breathing becomes quieter. He doesn't reach for his blade like a hero. He reaches for it like a man who understands how quickly things can turn. He waits for the second sound, because the second sound tells you if the first one mattered. Another rustle. Closer this time. The fire pops once, loud in the silence. The forest seems to answer with stillness, like it's holding its breath. He stays motionless, staring into the darkening trees, and for the first time since he stepped into the wild, he feels it clearly. This place is not empty, and whatever is out there has already noticed him. Night comes the way it always does out here, sudden and complete. The remaining light doesn't fade, it disappears. The forest becomes a black wall, and the clearing feels smaller, as if darkness is physically pushing in. He keeps the fire low. He doesn't feed it the way people do when they want comfort. He feeds it the way you feed a secret, just enough to keep it alive, not enough to give it away. The warmth reaches his hands, but his back is cold. The air shifts, and the wind finds every gap in his clothing. The rustling returns, not close enough to see, not far enough to ignore. He hears it in short bursts, like something circling, pausing, deciding. His mind tries to name it. Deer, fox, boar, predator. The problem is, naming doesn't change anything. Whatever it is, it's real. And he is alone. He doesn't panic. Panic is a luxury. He listens harder, letting the sounds build a map in his head. Left side, behind brush. Moving slow, not charging, testing. He grips the blade and stands, careful not to make sudden movements. The firelight paints his face in broken shadows. He steps toward the edge of the clearing, not to challenge, but to see. His eyes adjust to darkness, finding shapes where shapes shouldn't be. Nothing. Then a single snap, a twig breaking under weight. This time it's closer. His shoulders tighten. He lowers his center of gravity. He's not trying to fight the forest. He's trying to make sure the forest doesn't take him without warning. A shape moves between two trees, too quick to identify. not a person. Not that. He feels relief for half a second, then realizes relief is also dangerous, because now he has to deal with the truth. It doesn't have to be human to kill you. He backs away, slow, returns to the fire, adds one piece of wood, then stops. He doesn't want flames. He wants time. He crawls into the shelter and pulls his jacket tighter, knees to chest. He tries to sleep, but sleep out here is not sleep, it's negotiation. Your body wants to shut down, your mind wants to stay awake. Your fear wants to keep you alive by torturing you. In the darkness, memories begin to leak in through the cracks. A phone vibrating on a table, a missed call, another. A message that was short and cold, a silence that lasted longer than words. He sees a room with boxes, his things stacked like evidence. He hears someone say, "You need help," but not in a kind way, in a final way, like a closing statement. He opens his eyes and stares at nothing. That's why he came here. Not because he wanted adventure, because he couldn't stand being watched by people who only saw what he had become. Out here, the forest doesn't judge. It only measures. It only tests. A gust of wind hits the shelter, rattling branches. He flinches despite himself. His heart rate spikes. He forces it down. He counts his breaths, slow. In, out, in, out. The oldest trick in the world. Control your body and maybe your mind will follow. He drifts into a shallow sleep and the dreams come fast. He dreams he's walking down a corridor that never ends. Doors on both sides. Every door is closed. He reaches for one handle and his hand passes through it like smoke. He turns back, and the corridor behind him is gone. Only darkness, only distance, only the feeling of being trapped in a place built from his own failures. He jolts awake, breath sharp. The fire is lower. The air is colder. The forest is quieter, the kind of quiet that means the night is deepest. He crawls out and feeds the flame again, then looks up through the trees. He can't see the sky, but he senses it, wide and indifferent above him. Then he hears it, a cry high and distant, slicing through the dark. Not close, not comforting. The eagle, somewhere above, unseen, awake. He stares upward, and a strange anger rises in him, not at the bird, at the ease of it, the effortless glide, the certainty. He looks down at his hands, raw, scratched, shaking slightly from cold, and the anger shifts into something else, a decision. Morning comes pale and wet. Mist clings to the ground like smoke that refused to leave. His body aches in a way that feels personal. He drinks. He eats almost nothing. Hunger sharpens, turning his thoughts into edges. He checks the perimeter of his camp and finds prints near the clearing. Not human. Something with weight. Something that came close enough to smell his fire. He stares at the tracks for a long time, then looks back at his shelter. Last night, he survived. Tonight, the forest might try harder. And now he knows for sure. This place has started paying attention. The second day is harder, not because the terrain changes, but because he does. The body can pretend for a while. The mind can pretend for a while. But deprivation has a way of stripping the performance away, until all that's left is the truth underneath. He breaks camp quickly, covers the ash, scatters evidence, keeps movement efficient. The goal is not to conquer the wilderness. The goal is to stay alive long enough to decide what alive even means now. He follows the sound of water, because water is the only promise the forest makes consistently. The stream runs cold and fast, and the stones around it are slick. He kneels, filters, boils, drinks. He watches the current and thinks of how easily something can keep moving forward without asking why. Food becomes the next obsession. Hunger does not show up as pain at first. It shows up as irritation, then distraction. Then it changes your priorities. Then it changes you. He scans for signs, tracks, disturbed soil, broken branches, berries, edible plants. He finds a few, tests carefully, eats slowly. Not enough, never enough. He sets a simple snare where the trail narrows. He builds it like someone building a small chance in a world that offers none. As the day goes on, the weather turns. The wind shifts, carrying the smell of rain. The light dims behind thickening clouds. The forest becomes heavier, darker, like it knows what's coming. He keeps moving anyway. He reaches higher ground by late afternoon, where the trees thin and the cold bites sharper. From here, he can see the wilderness rolling out in every direction. No roads, no houses, no smoke. Nothing that looks like a human decision. He stands there with the wind pushing against his chest and realizes how small he is in the simplest way possible. Not philosophically, physically. Out here, one injury is enough. One wrong step, one night too cold, one mistake, and the forest erases you. The thought doesn't terrify him the way it should. It feels familiar, because he has already been erased once, just not out here. He finds a new spot near a cluster of rocks, sheltered from wind, close enough to the stream to refill water, far enough to avoid leaving a constant scent trail. He builds again. Low shelter, thick bed of leaves, small hidden fire ring. The same routine, repeated, because routine is the only thing that keeps panic from growing teeth. While he works, the mind returns, but differently now, not in flashes, in slow, heavy waves. He remembers the final argument. Not the words are easy to forget. He remembers the look, the moment someone stopped seeing him as a person and started seeing him as a problem. He remembers the space between them, filled with things neither could fix. He digs his fingers into the dirt, grounding himself in the only reality that matters now. Cold, hunger, shelter. He lights the fire just before dusk. Rain begins as a whisper, soft drops tapping leaves. Then it strengthens. The air turns sharp. His jacket darkens with wet. The fire fights to stay alive. He leans closer, shielding it, feeding it carefully. Every drop of rain that hits the coals feels like an insult. He forces the flame to hold anyway, because if the fire dies tonight, the cold will do what the cold always does, slowly, quietly, without emotion. The rain becomes steady. The woods fill with the sound of water. It masks everything else, and that's dangerous. When you can't hear the forest, you can't read it. He eats the last of his ration in small pieces. He doesn't savor it, he just needs the fuel. His stomach doesn't feel full. It feels quieter, like a beast that backed away but didn't leave. As darkness arrives, the rain turns the world into a cage. He crawls into the shelter, wet, tired, and listens to the storm. The sound is constant, hypnotic, oppressive. This is where the mind breaks people, because in the storm there is nothing to do but think. And the thoughts come. What if the world was right to leave you behind? What if you deserve this? What if this is the only place you can exist without ruining everything? What if the wild is the only honest judge you'll ever face? His breathing quickens. He forces it down. In, out, in, out. He focuses on the simplest truth. If he spirals, he dies, not emotionally, literally, because anxiety makes you waste heat, makes you waste energy, makes you waste time. Then, over the sound of rain, he hears something else. A low, deep sound, not a snap, not a rustle, a presence close. His eyes open wide in the darkness. The rain keeps falling. The fire is faint. And something heavy is standing just outside the shelter, breathing into the night. For a moment he doesn't move. He becomes the quietest thing in the forest. The kind of stillness that isn't calm. Survival stillness. He listens for pattern. 2 breaths, pause. 2 breaths, pause. Heavy, slow, close enough that he can feel it in the air. The shelter is thin, branches and leaves. A lie pretending to be a wall. He tightens his grip on the blade and shifts his weight carefully, trying not to make the leaves under him crackle. The rain covers small sounds, but not all. He holds his breath and waits for the next clue. The presence moves, a soft scrape, a weight shift, then a snort, low and wet. Not a person. His heart pounds once, hard, then settles into a controlled rhythm. Fear becomes a tool again. He counts breaths. He decides on the only thing he can decide. If it pushes in, he moves out. Not toward it. Away. Into the rain. Into the cold. Better exposed than trapped. The shape outside takes one slow step. He can hear the mud compress. Then it pauses again, as if considering. The storm lashes the trees. The fire struggles. The world narrows to the space between him and whatever is out there. Finally, it moves away. The sound fades into the rain, dissolving like it never existed. But he knows it did. The forest touched the edge of his life and decided not to take it, this time. He exhales shaky and realizes his hands are trembling. Not from weakness, from adrenaline. From the fact that tonight proved something brutal. He is not in control. He can do everything right and still lose. He can do everything wrong and still survive. The wilderness is not fair. It's honest. He doesn't sleep after that. He rests in fragments, half awake, listening to the rain and scanning the dark. When morning finally arrives, it feels like escape, not from the forest, but from his own mind. The storm has washed the world clean. The air is colder. The ground is heavier. His clothes are damp and stiff. He stands and stretches, and his body answers with pain that feels earned. He checks the area outside the shelter. Tracks in the mud, large, fresh. He kneels, touches the edge of one print. The size of it makes his throat tighten. Whatever it was, it came close enough to decide what he would become. He covers the fire pit again, erasing what he can, then packs up. He does not linger. Out here, lingering is how the forest learns you. He follows the stream deeper, searching for signs of life he can use. Fish, smaller animals, anything. Hunger is now a constant voice. It's not loud, but it's always speaking. It changes the way he looks at everything. A fallen log becomes a place where insects live. A patch of disturbed ground becomes possibility. He finds berries again, sparse. He eats them anyway. He finds a place where the stream widens into a shallow pool. And there, tracks everywhere. Deer, smaller animals, something that came to drink often. He sets traps, not perfect, just multiple. A snare, a deadfall, a crude line in the water. He works with a kind of focused desperation that doesn't feel like hope. It feels like refusal. Refusal to let the wilderness decide his ending. As he finishes, the clouds break for a moment, and pale light spills through. The forest glows wet and dark. He looks up into the open gap above the tree line and sees it. The eagle, high, still, circling with an ease that feels insulting. It rides the wind without struggling. It doesn't fear the storm. It doesn't fear hunger the way he does. It simply exists in a way he cannot. He watches it until his neck aches. Then he lowers his gaze to the mud, to the traps, to his hands. And something shifts. Not joy, not redemption. Something quieter and heavier. A decision that isn't dramatic enough for the world, but is life-changing for him. He can't go back to what he was. That path is gone. Even if he walked out of this forest today and found a road, the man who would step onto that road would not be the man who entered. The world behind him burned down. The wilderness is just making the ashes visible. So if there is a future, it won't be a return. It will be a rebuild. He gathers wood again, builds shelter again, prepares for night again. The routine is brutal, but it's also grounding. Every small action is proof that he can still do something, that he can still keep moving, when everything inside him says, stop. As evening falls, he lights a small fire and sits close to it, hands extended, eyes fixed on the flame like it holds answers. The forest settles into its nightly silence, and he feels the weight of being alone, not as punishment, but as reality. He doesn't whisper promises. He doesn't talk to the camera. He doesn't ask for sympathy. He simply looks into the dark, and for the first time, he understands the name of this channel in a way that isn't poetic. It's literal. There is no way back. So tomorrow, he will move forward again, not because he's brave, because there is nothing else left to do. And in this place, that might be the closest thing to purpose he can find.